Guru, your audio.
Is that okay? Is that okay?
Now it's okay.
Good evening.
You're not audible.
Hello.
Guru, you're not audible.
Guru, you're not audible, Guru.
1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute.
Play. Now it's clear.
Yeah, now it's, yeah.
Now we
Is
can
it-
hear you.
Is it okay?
Yeah, now
now
but
we
get
can hear you,
closer.
Guru.
Konjam
Yeah,
faint irukku.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Today is a very, very sad day for me. My guru, my mentor, and a great personality who's a walking encyclopedia, Padma Bhushan, our Dr. Nagaswamy, has left this world today around 3 p.m. When I got this news, I was terribly shocked for a minute. And today, we are supposed to have this meeting. I was contemplating whether we should continue this meeting with our regular presentations or just cancel it. But then my inner mind said that we should continue with this meeting. This will be a great tribute to the great legendary person, Dr. Nagaswamy, who was always thinking about the Indian heritage, the Indian art, the Indian temples, the Indian people, the Indian culture, Indian languages. He was one person who was a totally involved Indian who loved this dharma of this land, Sanatana Dharma. And he lived up to his last breath, only thinking of this and nothing else. Friends, you know, I had a very close relationship with Dr. Nagaswamy for quite some time. I'm a late entrant to this particular field in his life. It's only about past 20 years or so I've been attached with him. There are multivarious scholars in different fields of history, archaeology, architecture, that, this, everything, who were waiting in queue to have some interactions with Dr. Nagaswamy to know about it. I know it is, I consider it as my Purvajanma Phalan, that this great guru chose me as a Sishya. And he transferred so much of knowledge, which even any of the biggest universities in this world cannot do that. He was such a great personality. And it's not asking me to go and read this or read that or know about it. It's just the way of conversation that we had over a period of time. Informations used to flow. And it was very, very difficult for my small brain to grasp the total information. He will talk one subject and then suddenly shift it tangentially opposite to another subject, and there he will tell some points. And it keeps on going around that. So when I say something, sir, I'm planning to visit this particular temple, he'll say, go stand there, see from this angle, see that sculpture, and you tell me what it is. When I go and tell him, this is what I observed, he'll say, this is what you observed, exactly that's the same thing, but still there are some finer details that you have failed to absorb. So immediately I'll feel ashamed why I have not done that. He said, you will have to tune yourself to get that knowledge. So again, I used to go and visit something and find out something and tell him. And every small detail in any of the temples in the South India or Tamil Nadu for that matter has never missed his attention. Every small detail, if I go and tell him, he'll say it is there in this place, in this what, in this is the context of that. Everything he used to give in nutshell. Such a great personality. And he was always open to anything. And he was one person who stood by whatever he said. Be it so much of controversies or anything, he never cared about it. Way back in 1962, when he had just joined the Department of Archaeology, he has very clearly presented a paper on the great monuments of Mahabalipuram, which all of the archaeologists, historians, everybody believed that the monuments of Mahabalipuram were built by Narasimha Pallava. He very clearly gave a paper presenting that these monuments were never created by Narasimha Pallava. Narasimha Pallava never created any of these monuments. All these monuments were created by Rajasimha. And this was approved only by 2 or 3 of the great scholars at that time. But he never withdrew about his comment. His comment, he says, I stand by whatever I said. I am given the proof for it. And he stood by it. Even today, the topic is not closed. Whether it is Narasimha Pallava who did it or Rajasimha who did it. So that way he was convinced about whatever he said, and he stood by his conviction very clearly. Very clearly he stood by conviction, whatever he taught. And he was bold enough to tell that. And he was such a lovely person by heart, like a child he was. When anybody talks to him on this particular subject, he will immediately and spontaneously give response to that. And he will encourage people to just to know more about it. And sometimes I said, look, sir, we have started during this COVID period, we are starting this Heritage Club and we are having this small meeting with a group of people. He said, I will come and address. He offered himself and he came and addressed. It was a great address. And that too on a particular subject that we had done a research only at that point of time. Just a few weeks before that, he started gathering the materials and said, all the Hindu gods were worshipped even in the, what you call the Eastern Europe countries, European nations. You had Greek coins with Hindu gods on them. And all that informations with proofs of those coins he had just explained so beautifully. How this great Sanatana Dharma had spread throughout the Eastern Europe, especially Rome, Greek, and all that. So he was a person who was so fond of this particular subject, and he used to share his knowledge with everybody. And he had a reach. He had a simple language through which he used to reach. He always used to say, Gurumurthy, whenever you speak something, you don't have to use flowery languages. You have to see to that you are giving the point very clearly that people understand it. And he said one thing. Today, people think so much about Tamil. In Tamil, unfortunately, in Tamil Nadu, people talk only about Tamil. They don't want to talk about Sanskrit. But Sanskrit and Tamil, they lived together in this country from time immemorial. So both are equal. I would never say that Tamil is bad or anything. And he got this Kalaimamani award only for doing a work on Secular's Peripuranam. He was a scholar in Tamil and also in Sanskrit. He says both are the eyes. You cannot say right eye is good and left eye is bad. So he says everything is integrated. And that was a great personality. And he was a great, great human being and a great guru to me. And it's a very, personally to me, it's a great loss. And I, on behalf of all our members who are here, let us observe a minute of silence for this great soul to attain moksha. Let us observe silence, sitting or standing in your own place. Starts now. Thank you. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. This is a dedicated presentation to my Guru, Ishvara, and in his form, the Guru who taught me the subject, Dr. Ramaswamy. With this, let's see about two great Chola temples in today's presentation. One is Pullamangai and the other one is Melakkadambur. These two great Chola temples is what we are going to see in our today's presentation, and I welcome you all to join this presentation. These two temples of Pullamangai and Melakkadambur were built by the great Chola kings who ruled this basin, Kaveri Basin, for almost about 400 and odd years. The two temples that we have taken up today, Pullamangai and Kadambur, were built by these great rulers, Chola, in a gap of about 180 years, approximately about 200 years or so. Two remarkable temples of two different art in that. It's amazing to see these two beautiful temples. The temple of Pullamangai was built by Parantaka I, somewhere around 925 CE, which is an architectural wonder. The tradition of temple building, which was started by the Pallavas, was continued by the Cholas. Immediately after the Pallavas, the Cholas came to power, and that striking impact of the Pallava temples are seen here in this beautiful temple of Pullamangai. Be it the Vimana or the sculptural beauty in which the sculptures are made in this temple, have got a very, very striking resemblance to that of the Pallavas. But they had something of their own also installed in this temple. That very special feature that they installed in this temple is by the way of the miniature sculptures which they had introduced in the Adhisthana of these temples. Amazing miniature sculptures you can see. Then almost the story of Ramayana, Vishnu Purana, Bhagavata, all incidents from that have taken up and beautifully sculpted into miniature sculpture, which are just 6 inches by about 5 inches or 6 inches by 4 inches. That's all. That's the size of it. In that, they have given the complete narration of the story. Coming to Melakkadambur, which came up 200 years, almost 180 years later, built by Kulothunga Chola, which is known as Karakkoil. And this temple of Karakkoil at Melakkadambur is in the form of a chariot, and it's totally built out of black granite. And it's studded with sculpture. If you see both the temples, Pullamangai as well as Karakkoil, every small inch of the wall is studded with sculptures of beauty, which shows about the mastery of the Chola architecture. But then again, there is a remarkable change that you can see in the sculptural value between the temples of Pullamangai and the Kadambur. This is a beautiful study to see both the temples of Chola architecture in one sitting, and how this architecture or temple building style had evolved over the period of 200 years. Pullamangai, as it is called, is a Padapetru of Tevaram, where Saint Tirunjana Sambandar has sung in praise of this great Shiva inside the sanctum of this temple, who was known as Alandurai Mahadeva. So this is a Padalpetru Sthalam which had existed much before the structure that you are seeing here. It should have been a brick structure during the time of 7th century, when Tirunjana Sambandar, 6th century and 7th century, when Tirunjana Sambandar was there. And he has come to this place and sung in praise of this great Lord, Alandurai Mahadeva, who is known as Brahma Purishwarar today. This temple is located in a very sleepy village between Tanjavur and Kumbakonam on the banks of river Kudamurti, which is a branch of Kaveri. Tirunjana Sambandar says in his beautiful Tevaram, Pudal Sool Pullamangai. It says there is greenery all around this wonderful temple of Pullamangai. Even today, it's a beautiful agricultural village with beautiful green fields and all sort of coconut groves surrounding this temple. And today also, this place remains by the same words of Tirunjana Sambandar as Pudal Sool Pullamangai. The Lord of this temple today is known as Brahma Purishwarar, because of the Puranic story attached to this, that Brahma came and did tapas here and got some boons from Shiva. So he is called as Brahma Purishwarar. But Tevaram, this temple and the Shivalinga there is known as Alandurai Mahadeva. The inscriptions in this temple also claim that this presiding deity as Alandurai Mahadeva. And this is the temple of Pullamangai as you see it. Very unimpressive by the first looks of it. You can see a modern construction, a Mahamandapa there in front. So many other constructions come up, all these. But this is the old structure that was built by the great Parantaka Chola. You have so many sculptures retrieved from this, kept here. It's an amazing temple that we are going to see. This temple had existed as a brick structure in 7th century. And this stone structure should have been rebuilt during the period of Parantaka Chola, which is Parantaka Chola ruled between 907 and 955. Approximately about 925 or so, he had built this temple, which is evident from the inscriptions are found in this temple. You have a lot of inscriptions on the basement of this temple, which describes that this was built by Parantaka. This structure, the main Garbhagriha and the Ardhamantapa, which was the original structure of this temple when it was built by Parantaka, is built totally out of granite stones, quarried from somewhere long away and brought in here and built this wonderful temple. There are also inscriptions pertaining to the reign of Sundara Chola, Aditya Karikala, and Rajaraja and Uttama Chola and many other Chola kings who ruled after them. All of them have made a lot of contributions to this temple for the perpetual lamp to be burnt there and made a lot of gifts of lands and things so on. And all these inscriptions pertain only to that particular gifts that they had contributed for this particular temple. Now, this is the main entrance of this temple. A newly constructed Rajagopuram is seen at the entrance. Actually, this is a base of this, was built by the Cholas, and the Rajagopuram is a later addition which has happened recently. The ancient structure of this temple comprising of the sanctum, that is the Garbhagriha and the Ardhamandapa, today it's much below the present ground level. If you consider this is the ground level, it is much below the ground level is what you see there. Today, both the structures, that Garbhagraham and the Ardhamantapam of this temple, is almost 6 feet below the present day ground level. And there is a pit which is constructed all around. And apart from this, you see many unwanted constructions that have taken place in this temple. Mainly before the Durga shrine, they have included, they've brought in concrete structures like mantabas and things like that. And Dakshina Murthy shrine and many other sub-shrines are added to this. And thereby, the originality of this temple is totally lost. Not only that, many of the miniature sculptures have been totally vandalized and totally covered up with these new structures that have come up. Very, very unfortunate that to see that. And since this temple is under the maintenance of, by the HRNC, they have encouraged all these constructions there. According to historians, this temple counted among the 4 early temples of the Cholas that they have built. The other 3 temples being one at Srinivasanallur, the Mover Koil, which you see there in Kodumbalur, which we have seen in detail. And the third one is the Nageshwaran temple and in the heart of the Kumbakonam city. These 3, along with this Pullamangai, are the 4 great, beautiful temples built during the time of Parantaka Chola. These temples follow a pattern very clearly like that of the Pallavas. And these temples are relatively very small in size. And all of them have a fair size porch locally called the Ardhamantapa attached to the Garbhagriha. That's all. Apart from that, these structures, the old structures, had only the Garbhagriha and the Ardhamantapa. All the other structures in this temple, which you see today, are the later additions, especially in the Nageswaran temple. Of course, Mover Koil, everything is dilapidated. The Garbhagriha and the Ardhamantapa of the temple belong to the earlier structure, while the newer structures were added to it later, like the great Mahamandapam that they have built something around 16th century, and then further badly done up with cement structures much later. All the Parivara shrines that were there earlier in this temple during that period of the Cholas have not survived, and new shrines for the Parivara Devas are also come up in this particular Pulamangai. The sculptures that you see in this temple are highly acclaimed for its beauty. Apart from the lovely Devakoshta sculptures or the images, this temple houses the most beautiful sculptural images of the Chola period. All the most beautiful images of Chola period are seen only in this particular temple. The temple has got a series of miniature panels depicting the scenes from Ramayana, Vishnu Purana, and others. The sculpting in this temple is of the highest quality, and it speaks volumes of the great Chola artistry that had existed. See, this is the wall, the rear wall, the western side wall of the Garbhagriha, which is only about 25 feet by 25 feet. And the Ardha Mandapa is again there in front of that. Look at the artistic way in which this particular wall is being depicted. The center portion is slightly projecting outside. You have the Koshta, main Koshta there, with the Lingodbhava, and the side to Nasik. Very, very plain Koshtas, very artistically done above, and below it is just plain. The whole temple stands on a beautiful Adhisthana, which is almost about 5 feet tall. And this 5 or 6 feet tall Adhisthana is right below the ground level that you see here. And this is the pit that you see here. Below that is the Adhisthana. Look at that. That's the Adhisthana, which is totally now below the ground level. Present ground level is seen here and is almost 6 feet down below. And on this Adhishthanas is what you see, the miniature panels. All these panels that you see here is just 6 inches by, say about 4 inches or 5 inches. That's all. 6 by 5 and 6 by 4. That is the size in which the entire story of Ramayana is being depicted in this. And the beautiful Yali varis that are running around there. And the basement is so beautiful with the Padma projections. And you have the Upapita also there. Very beautifully. All these things are 6 feet below. Now, when you want to see these beautiful sculptures, you'll have to get inside the pit and then only photograph them. It's very, very pathetic to see that the entire place has come up and the temple is sunk below. And when it rains, the entire pit is full of water without a proper drainage. Very pathetic to see this. And the beautiful Yali varis are amazing quality. Every Yali is something different, very beautiful. And the edges of the Yali varis, you find a very beautiful sculpture, which is only seen here and few other places like Srinivasanallur and places, where a Yali opens its mouth. And from the mouth of the Yali emerges a warrior riding a horse or a Yali or anything. What a beautiful depiction. Such a beautiful miniature. Such a beautiful miniature covering the Yali varis. It's amazing to see here in Pulamangai. This is the western wall that you see here. A very beautifully decorated western wall. Behind the Garbhagriha. You have the center portion of it is a beautiful Koshta. The Koshta is having the Lingodbhava Murthy. And above that, you have the beautiful Bhutavaris on the top. And the entire thing is held by the bracket figures, dancing bracket figures. And sides, you have 2 plain Koshtas. And that Koshta, after a certain level, its beautiful design is seen there with the Kudu. And inside the Kudu is a small temple. And in that temple, you have a royal image or a image of a god and a Yalivari also there. What a beautiful depiction, or what a beautiful creation that you can see here. And all these miniature sculptures are seen here. Now look at that. This is one of the plain coasters that you see here. A very beautiful coaster, which is almost like a temple here. And inside the temple, you have the image. Here in this image, you can see a beautiful Apsara. Whether it is an Apsara or a royal queen or somebody connected with Chola, we do not know. Because the early Chola temples during this Parantaka period, like what we see in Srinivasanallur and also at Nageswaram, both of them have royal images there. So this could be a royal image of the Chola queen also, or could it be an Apsara? We do not know. Very beautifully depicted here. And on the side of that, you have the two Yalis flanking it. Amazingly beautiful representation in that small area. Now above that, you have the beautiful Bhutakanas. So many Bhutakanas are seen there, dancing, playing drums, playing flute, playing other musical instruments. All the Ganas are seem to be enjoying. You can see happiness in the face and their body language, which is spread throughout the entire structure. And the Bhutaganas, the commander of these Bhutaganas is Ganapathi. The Ganapathi image is also seen here. You see the Ganapathi image? He is the commander of all the Bhutaganas. He is also seen enjoying, along with this Bhutaganas, playing different instruments and proclaiming that this is the place of Lord Shiva, Mahadeva. And look at the beautiful, what do you call this, Makaratorana. A wonderful Makaratorana, which opens up, the Makara opens up and you have the beautiful images here of Shiva, giving the Chandesha Murthy here, and then again a Rishabhantaka there. What a beautiful representation of the Makaratoranas. Everything that has been done with so much of precision and detailing. Look at the bracket figures of dancers. As if these dancers are holding up the whole temple. These bracket figures are there all around. All the dancers in different Natishastra mudras, or what you call the karanas, are seen here. Look at the royal image. You can find beautiful images with perfect detailing of the temple, and inside that you have that. A very small miniature representation of the entire Koshta is being done there. You have the godly images here also. You find the Rishabhantaka, Shiva there, reclining onto the bull. It's not only the royal images, you have the images of gods and goddesses also there. Look at that wonderful Rishabhantaka. Look at the posture of Shiva with head tilted to one side and majestically standing there with one leg bent and one leg straight, with the four arms. Such a beautiful representation of Rishabhantaka form of Shiva. And coming to the southern side Koshta, as you enter the southern Koshta, the first image that striking image that you see is of the Ganapathi there. Normally in all temples, Ganapathi takes that place. And this Ganapathi is totally different from all the Ganapathis that you see in many other temples. There'll be purely an image of Ganapathi alone there. But here, this Ganapathi is seen flanked with so many Bhutaganas. He is the Ganapathi, the Adipati of all the Ganas, Bhutaganas. So all the Bhutaganas are seen along with Ganapathi here. Look at that beautiful Ganapathi image, seated Ganapathi image on the lotus pedestal. How beautifully he is seated. There's a beautiful umbrella on top of him. The umbrella gives the cover for the Ganapathi with 4 arms, one arm resting on his thigh, other right arm is holding a laddu or modaka, and very beautiful Ganapathi. A beautiful Valamburi Ganapathi is seen here, seated on the lotus pedestal. By the side of these Ganapathis, you have these Bhutakanas. What beautiful depiction of these Bhutakanas. It's amazing to see the playful mood of these Bhutakanas. How they are enjoying the company of Ganapathi is shown here wonderfully. Look at these 2 Bhutakanas, one holding the modaka and the other one holding the fruit. Here again, the other Gana is holding a fruit, and this Gana is opening up a jackfruit, waiting for offering it to Ganapathi. What beautiful way they have depicted. Look at the hairstyles of the Ganas. Look at the pot bellies. Look at the posture in which they are sitting. Amazing, amazing work of art. And above that, you have 4 more Ganas. This Gana is playing something and probably is singing. He's probably singing, carrying a big bowl of laddus or anything for Ganapathi. And this Gana is having his whisk in his hand, chamaram. And this Gana is just beating his own belly, creating sounds there. And above this, you have a beautiful Gana waiting with this Mushika, the Vahana of Ganapathi. Anytime the master may say, get me the vehicle. So just as the chaffer waiting for the master to call, he is waiting there with the cart. The chaffer waits with the cart. Here, this Gana is waiting with Mushika for his master to travel. What an amazing depiction of this wonderful panel of Pulamangai, the first panel of Pulamangai. The rear panel, you have a beautiful depiction of Lingodbhava Murthy. What an amazing features that you see in this Lingodbhava presentation. This Lingodbhava, which is almost created 1,300 years ago, has eroded very badly. The facial features are lost, the hands are lost, but still you can make out the majestic way in which this Lingodbhava is presented. Shiva emerging as a shaft of fire. To show that he is emerging as a shaft of fire as Lingodbhava form, you have the fire representations all over the portions of the Linga. A beautiful Lingodbhava Murthy. He is flanked on this side by Brahma. Look at that Brahma. What a beautiful, majestic way. And look at the way and the posture in which Brahma is standing there. May I request you to kindly mute? May I request you to kindly mute? On the left side, you have Mahavishnu. What a beautiful depiction of Mahavishnu and Brahma, almost to the size of the same Shiva. Both Shiva and Vishnu wanted to know about Shiva. When Shiva stood up there as a shaft of fire, Brahma went as a swan and Mahavishnu went as Varaha to see the head and the toe and the foot of Shiva. That is Lingodbhava. And here, look at this Lingodbhava standing there. On either side, you have Brahma. Now let's see Brahma. Look at the Jatamuti of the Brahma. What a beautiful hairstyle of the Brahma is shown here. You see the 3 faces of Brahma here. And you see the 2 arms are just shown. The Kamandala and the Akshamala are not stuck to the hand, they are seen above as separate pieces. This was the way in which the earlier temples, they had projected this. All the gods and goddesses were presented with their ayudams separately, not connecting it to the finger or showing it as if they are holding it to it. This is the early period sculpture. Look at the beautiful face of Brahma. It's got a little of femininity in it. Such a beautiful way he's standing. Look at the posture in which he's standing, the jewelry that Brahma is wearing, the thick Egyopavita which is there on his shoulders. Amazing representation of Brahma. And so is Vishnu. Look at his beautiful crown, wonderful crown. Look at the ornaments that Vishnu is wearing. Look at the serenity in his face with two Makara Kundalas. Similarly, the chakra and the shankha are shown separately and not attached to the fingers. So beautifully done. Amazing close-ups of Brahma and Vishnu in that panel of Lingodbhava. The Lingodbhava, as he stands there, Brahma went as swan to see the head of Shiva. He never succeeded it. And that is beautifully represented here as Brahma flying above to see the head of Shiva. Look at the three faces of Brahma and the way he's shown as if he's flying right above to see the head of Shiva on the Lingodbhava. And Vishnu as Varaha is going as a boar, digging down below to go and have the darshan of the feet of Shiva. This is so beautifully seen here. And on the northern face, you have the Brahma. Normally, all the northern koshtas, you have the Brahma. Look at that Brahma. This is a beautiful representation of Brahma. And this Brahma is given in Uttama Dasatala. They call it in the Shilpa Shastra as Uttama Dasatala. Normally, when you see a measurement, any presentation will be 8 size the face. But here, this is almost 10 size the face. But it doesn't give you any sort of distortion in the figure or anything. That's how the God images were presented there in those days. And this Brahma is presented in the Uttama Dasatala. Look at the beautiful Makara Torana above the Brahma and the umbrella on top of the head of the Brahma and the two people seated here. You have all the beautiful miniature sculptures, 4 of them seen here also. What a beautiful representation of Brahma that you can see in this Koshta. Look at that Brahma in the close-up. How beautifully is depicted in Uttama Dasatala with a beautiful Jata crown and the 3 faces, one showing the Abhaya, and similarly the Kamandala and the Akshamala are separated from the hands and shown there. Look at the thick Agyopavitam and the waistbands, very thick waistbands all around hanging, which is a striking influence of the Pallava period of architecture that was carried on those days. Again, a very still a further close-up of the Brahma. The thick Upavitas tied around the waist. On either side of this Brahma image, you have 2 rishis seated there, taking the notes of the Vedas that Brahma is chanting. You can see them writing into the palm leaf scripts, something which Brahma is chanting. So Brahma is the authority of the Veda, and whatever Brahma chants is being taken out as Vedashara, and that's been copied by 2 rishis, is what is shown here. And coming to the next Koshta on the northern side is the Durga Devi. This is the most wonderful and the best of the Durga representations of the Chola era, I would say, especially the early Chola era. There's nowhere in this world you can see such a beautiful Durga. This Durga is one of the best of the Chola creations that you can see here. This is the Koshta facing north, where you see this Vishnu Durga there. Look at that. This is the sculptural beauty of that Durga. The wonderful Makaratorana. Look at the way, the Tribanga in which she stands, her face slightly tilted, the hip tilted, and the leg tilted. Tribanga, the face, hip, and the leg. Beautifully slightly bent, giving grace to the posture in which she stands. She is Vishnu Durga. She is holding the Shankha and the Chakra. The Chakra is in the Prayoga form. And beautiful way she's standing on top of the Mahisha's head. Look at the huge head of Mahisha on which she stands as Mahishasura Mardini. She's holding bow, Sula, the shield, Khadga, and the sword. Khadga, the sword, and the shield. All. What a beautiful representation of Durga. Again, you see the beautiful umbrella right on top of her head. That is the Durga. The huge head of the Mahisha. Look at the way she's holding the Shula, the sword, the bow, the shield, the Shankha, the Chakra, and she's got this hand as a parrot also seated there. Such a beautiful representation of Durga. Again, a much closer up. Unfortunately, the Abhaya Hasta of this Durga is totally deteriorated because of the wear and tear of the stone. It's gone. But this Durga is still under worship. And a lot of people come every Friday and Tuesdays to offer the Rahukala pujas and so on. And by the side of this Durga, you have these two images of the Chola warriors offering their head. This is called as Navakantha. Whenever the Cholas went for a war, the warriors came forward and offered their life as a sacrifice to Durga to win the war. This man is holding his hair, the kudimi, what they called it in those days. He's holding it by tightly with his hand. And normally his hair is tied up to a pole. So this fellow is using a sword from behind and he brings the sword, cuts his head. Immediately the head goes up and it doesn't fall down, it hangs there. So this particular way of offering their own head to Durga was known as Navakhanta. This was predominantly seen in all the Pallava sculptures, and that is followed here in this, the early Chola temple, where the Navakhanta is shown here. And this side, you have the man offering the flesh from his thigh to Durga. This was all an offering that was done there in those days. Chola and Sangha literatures call this Durga Devi as Kotravai. And a lot of people say Kotravai and Vishnu Durga are different, whatever it is. But this is a beautiful Durga Parameshwari. And this was a deity which the Cholas revered very much in their thing. And they have the special pujas conducted for Durga for all occasions. And one side of this, on the coaster, you have the lion, which is the Simha Vahini. She is known as the Simha Vahini. So Durga's Vahana is Simha, which is shown here. And on this side, you have a beautiful antelope, which is actually a black buck. The black buck was also considered as a Vahana for Durga in those days. You can see it in the Pallava sculptures and also in the early Chola sculptures. You find many of these Chola early sculptures will have this black buck, also an antelope, also as the Vahana for Durga. And that Vahana is being managed by a Bhutakanas, very beautifully depicted. This is an amazing masterpiece of this great temple of Pulamangai. Now coming to the Vimana of the Pulamangai, which is known as Ashtanga Vimana, it's got full of sculptures all over. And it's three Thala Vimana. You have beautiful sculptures studded all over this Vimana. And it's an amazing work of art. Yeah. Can I ask you to please mute? I don't know who is that. Please mute yourself. Don't make sounds. And you have the center portion, which is called the Sala. In that sala, you have a beautiful image of Shiva. Right again, on the next level, you have the Shikara, which is there. Now, Shikara has been redone recently, about 20 years back. And down below that, on either side of this, you have the Kudus also there, which is again a miniature temple. And that is also studded with a lot of images. You have the second level Sala also there. In that also you have the images. And you have the Nashi Kudus, that small Kudus. In that also you have beautiful sculptures of Shiva and many other gods and goddesses. And that's the Vimana. Every inch of this Vimana is studded with sculptures. It's amazing to see the work that had happened about 3,300 years ago. What beautiful workmanship. It stands today, bright, tall, and beautiful. Now let's explore what you see on the south side. You above the Dakshinamurti shrine, you have again Shiva seated here in the pose of Dakshinamurti in the Sala. And on the western side, right above the Lingodbhava, the western side, early Chola temples, instead of Lingodbhava, they used to have Mahavishnu also. But here, down below, you have the Lingodbhava. So right above that, you have the representation of Vishnu in different forms. You have the Mahavishnu seated on Ananta, and right above that, you have Narasimha. Beautiful images of Vishnu are seen here. Let's see them close. Look at that. Vaikunthanatha, seated on the serpent, the Adisesha. He is seated in the Sala, the center portion of the Sala, holding the Chakra and Shankha. The Chakra is in the Prayoga form and is beautifully seated with one hand resting totally, and his, of course, left arm is totally broken. And the entire Sala is being carried by two beautiful Devaganas. And look at the maintenance of the temple. You'll find a lot of trees, everything grown all over there by the side of Mahavishnu to give him company. And look at that beautiful Mahavishnu. The detailing of the jewelry, the costume, the dress that he's wearing, all the foldings, the drapery of the dress is seen so beautifully. Look at the beautiful Prayoga Chakra and look at the beautiful way in which they have depicted the Seshanag. Very, very beautiful, amazing, majestic Mahavishnu that you see on the western side. Above that, you have the Narasimha. What a beautiful Narasimha it is. This is a different Narasimha. Nowhere in this world you can see this Narasimha. After doing the Hiranyakshavada, Narasimha was furious. Nobody would dare to go close to him. Narasimha appeared for his Bhakta Prahalada. So Narasimha was happy to see Prahalada. So like a baby, he calls him. Prahalada slowly walks up to Narasimha. Immediately, Narasimha puts his one leg and hugs Prahalada close to him and sees him with so much of love and affection. You can see the love and affection of Prahalada in his eyes and the eyes of Narasimha. Narasimha is Ugra. His heart is open, but still, you can find something different. It is not that wide. You don't see the violence in that, with which he killed Hiranyaksha. But look at there is a small, subtle smile also added, or rather, what you call an emotion which is added on seeing Prahalada, which is so beautifully depicted. Amazing sculpture. This is one of the most amazing sculptures that you can see here in this temple. Look at the way, in this posture, you can see the way in which Prahalada looks up at his Lord Narasimha, Mahavishnu. And look at the eyes of Narasimha. totally fixed on that baby Prahalada. Look at the way in which he sees, wide open mouth, like a smile, or something that he wants to show his affection. What a beautiful depiction like this that has happened 1,300 years ago in this sculptural form. Today, nobody in this world can attempt to do such a beautiful sculpture. Such a great sculpture. All these salas and koshas with slightly projecting front, and all these carried beautiful images. Now on the north, you have the beautiful image of Shiva as Tripurantaka, and down below on the koshta, you have Shiva as the Bhikshadada Murthy. Of course, all the hands of the Shiva Bhikshadada Murthy are chopped off, and you find the beautiful Gopuram Tangis there. And right above the Kudu of the Bhikshadana, you have the beautiful representation of Gajasamhara Murthy also there. The Gana, which stands below the Shiva as Bhikshadana there, carrying his Bhikshapatra, is amazingly depicted with a lot of vegetation around him and wires going all around. This Bhikshadana is still existing there, thanks to great souls. Look at that beautiful Bhikshadana. What a beautiful representation. The majestic form in which Shiva stands there. And the beautiful miniature representation of Gajasamhara Murthy. When Shiva is doing the Gajasamhara, Parvati is running away from him. All that are depicted so beautifully in this. Right above that, you have the wonderful representation of Shiva as Tripurantaka holding his bow and arrow. We have discussed about this form of Tripurantaka in my earlier presentation on Tripurantaka also. And right in the front, on the east-facing koshta, you have a beautiful representation of Ardhanari form of Shiva. Apart from the Vimana, right above the Garbhagraha, you have again a Sala element which has been incorporated. In that Sala element, you have again a beautiful sculpture. This is what you see the Sala element on the northern side. The southern side Sala element existed right above the Ganesha. But unfortunately, that is broken totally and it's vanished. The sculptures, everything is vanished from there. And today they have made a mocking representation of that. And this Sala is flanked on either side by Bhutakanas. What a beautiful way of representing the Ardha Mandapa. This is the only temple you have such a beautiful structure there. No other temple this pattern is followed. This is a beautiful representation of a Sala element right above the Garbhagara, about the Ardha Mandapa of the temple on either side. In that, you have the beautiful Rishabhantaka form of Shiva. Look at the beautiful Rishabhantaka form of Shiva. The majestic Shiva standing, reclining onto the bull. What a beautiful representation of Rishabhantaka, the form of Shiva. Amazing. And look at the Bhutakanas. Beautiful Bhutakanas playing different musical instruments. Unfortunately, in the name of renovations, they have constructed everything and the legs of these Bhutakanas are all buried under this construction. It's a pathetic thing to see this. It's very pathetic to see this. What was created 1,300 years ago as masterpiece of art, Indian art, we don't preserve them. Look at that beautiful Bhutakanas. How wonderfully they are there. Look at the expressions in their faces. It's amazing to see that. Now coming to the Adhisthana and the miniature sculptures. These are the places where the miniature sculptures are there. I told you this entire Adhisthana is in 6 feet below the ground level. So this is the pit. From this pit, you have to photograph. and you hardly have 2 feet or 3 feet size. I mean, this space within which you have to travel with your camera and fix it up. When you go too close, normally it becomes blur and very, very difficult to take the photographs of these things. And from the ground level, you can hardly reach this place to take any photographs. And it's a very, very tricky position that we have to photograph all these things there. And miniatures are outstanding quality. Now you have the rows of Shiva Purana stories, Shiva and Parvati seated with the bull behind and the Ganas playing around there. It's a Uma Sahita Murthy. Look at the beautiful way in which it's been represented. It's just 6 inches. Mind you, again and again, I'm telling you have to tune your mind to see that this is a small one, which is not even the size of your palm. This sculpture is just slightly bigger than your palm size. So in that they have made this, so much of detailing. You have to have that in mind when you see this. Only then you will be in a position to appreciate and see this beauty of that creation. Look at that Shiva, Chaturatandava Shiva. With 8 arms, he's dancing there with 2 Bhutakanas, holding a Trishula. What a beautiful representation of Chaturatandava Shiva. Again, you have this Ardhanari, which is just about 3 inch by 5 inch. That's all, in which they have given this Ardhanari form. Unfortunately, it's all defaced now. You wear and tear of the stone, but amazing work which they have done in such small miniature. Look at this Urdhvajanu of Shiva's dance. Shiva is doing the Urdhvajanu dance. He is Karna, and he has got 2 Bhutakanas playing the different drums there. What a beautiful depiction of Shiva and Urdhvajanu. Again, this is Gangadara. The Ganga is coming from the heavens. Shiva is taking him in his matted locks. Parvati is turning away and going there, because Shiva is giving a place to another lady there in his head. And that's shown here as Gangadara. We'll again come and see the Ganga Visarjana Murthy. That's also there. This is the amazing Gajasamhara Murthy. 10-arm Gajasamhara Murthy, tearing open the skin of the elephant, emerging out there. Parvati running away from there, seeing the gory sight. The baby, Skanda, is there in her hip. He wants to get away from that, seeing that horrible sight. And Parvati is handing over to her maid, asking to take care of the child. And seeing this, these Bhutakanas are amazed. What is opening its mouth and saying, ah, and la, and shouting there. Another Bhutakana is seen dumbstruck there. All these things are represented with Shiva with 10 arms, Parvati, Skanda, the maid, 2 Bhutakanas, the elephant, its 4 legs, and all these things in just 6 inches by about 4 inches or 5 inches. That's all. In that, they have created this beautiful Shiva, the Gajasamhara Murthy. Every strand of the hair of the Shiva's Jatabhadra is shown beautifully. The posture of Shiva's front and back in one line, the way and the force with which he is doing, all the animation, everything is incorporated into this and captured into this such small miniature. A marvelous creation of these Cholas of that time. Again, you have this beautiful Shiva and Parvati seated in Kailasha along with the Bhutakana. This is again the Gangadara, Ganga Visarjana. There we saw the Gangadara, Shiva taking the Ganga into his head. Here he is releasing the Ganga, consoling Parvati. This is the Ganga Visarjana. See, when I went there to this particular temple in one part, I've gone many a times. One of this particular time, when I went there, there was heavy rain some time before that. There was so much of water that had accumulated there, and lot of unwanted, mud, dust, and everything, leaves, everything have come up. And all these are stuck to this beautiful images. There was nobody to clean nobody to maintain this. All these yellow color things are some scrap that has fallen and stuck to that, the leaves and things like that, decayed leaves and everything. This is the Chandesha Anugraha Murthy. Shiva blessing Chandesha with this mala on his head. And here is Shiva, the Kamadahana Murthy. Shiva burnt Kama. There are Manmata who came to destroy the Shiva's penance. Parvati was serving Shiva, and she is seen here. The hermitage of Shiva is seen here. The bull is standing in front of that. And Parvati is here. The Kamadahana happens. Shiva opens his third eye. Kama is burnt. And Rati is here. Very beautifully seen here. And look at that, Bhutakanas is also there. All these characters and all this action is just compiled into such a small miniature. Here, Bhikshadana. Shiva in the form of Bhikshadana coming out to Tarukavanam, and all the Rishipatnis amazed by seeing the beauty of Shiva going behind him. This is Shankara Narayana. Now coming to the Ramayana sculptures. Unlike the Nageswaran temple in Kumbakonam, it is not in sequence, but then to a very major extent, you find most of the scenes of Ramayana. Unfortunately, due to negligence, all these stones are giving up crack now, and probably in years to come, we may not even see this particular thing. Look at the beautiful small sculpture, 6 inches by 5 inches. They have created this beautiful scene. Namakarana ceremony of the Rama. Dasaratha is seated here. He is given the Namakarana for Rama, and you can see his wife Koshala there. The other 2 wives, Kaikeyi and Sumitra, holding their children, waiting for the Namakaranam to happen. What a beautiful depiction of this wonderful scene of Ramayana here. Next is one scene where Dasharatha and Kausalya are seated on the throne. Rama and Lakshmana are 2 boys standing there. Vishwamitra, along with other munis and rishis, have come asking for Rama. So Dasharatha is terribly upset. You can see the upset of Dasharatha shown in his face, slightly tilted, and more is his queen is very, very upset, and her face is also tilted. So Vishwamitra is looking at Dasharatha and saying, are you going to give Rama to me or not? I've been asking you to give me Rama. So Dasharatha is upset. He doesn't want to answer. He turns his face away. Rama and Lakshmana are looking at Dasharatha to know what is his reaction are to be. Look at the emotion-packed aspect of that. How beautifully it's brought out in such a beautiful miniature sculpture. I don't have words to express this. It's such a great emotion, packed thing which is brought in sculpture. They could have just given one Dasaratha image, one Vishwamitra image, and one Kausalya's image, and something like that, and left it. But that scene had so much of emotions, so much of drama in that, and that drama to be brought up in the sculpture by this form is something unimaginable, unimaginable. Look at that. Rama goes along with Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra gives him all the Astra Shastra. Rama is a small boy of 13 years. Vishwamitra is a 6 feet or about tall man. Rama is a small boy. So Vishwamitra is bending his body exactly the way which Rama, and is holding the hands of Rama, teaching him how to hold the bow and how to shoot the arrow. Lakshmana is standing by the side and watching this lesson that is being given by Vishwamitra. Look at the way how Vishwamitra has spread his legs to accommodate the entire frame of Rama inside him. The way in which he holds his hand of Rama, showing how he has to hold the arrow, how he has to hold the bow, and how the shooting and the aiming has to be done. Both Vishwamitra and Rama are not looking at the bow and arrow. Their aim is elsewhere. The eyes are focused to the aim. Way in which how they have to adjust the bow and arrow is what is explained in this. What a beautiful depiction again. A masterpiece of depiction on this miniature. Look at this. Tataka Vadam. Rama, Lakshmana, and Vishwamitra walking into the forest. Rama has told so much about Tataka. She's a dangerous lady. She will come and attack from anywhere. So what happens? Rama is getting prepared for it. All the three are walking. Vishwamitra is going front. Rama and Lakshmana are following. Suddenly this Asura, Tataka, the Rakshasi comes from behind, attacking Rama. Vishwamitra says, look, she has come. He points out to her. Immediately, that spur of the moment, Rama twists his body, aims his arrow, and shoots at that Tataka. The moment the arrow hits Tataka, she is fallen down. She is shown here. What a wonderful action of that Ramayana brought into the form of this sculpture. What a beautiful action of this Ramayana has been brought into the sculpture. I would say it is something phenomenal. We never had movies in those times. It is just by seeing the sculpture, you can imagine, you can really run through how this action would have taken place there. Again, this is Vishwamitra doing the yaga along with many other rishis. Marichi and Subahu are coming and disturbing them. So Rama is killing the Subahu and Marichi is running away from there. And that's shown here in this beautiful sculpture. Look at this. Again, a very small panel. Bharata is moving to, after he heard Rama is there in Chitrakoot, he comes there and pleads with Rama to come back to Ayodhya and take his position. He is a king. Bharata is a king. He comes on top of the elephant along with Sumitra and Shatrugna, and all the other people are following him. Almost 11 characters are depicted in this. He is crossing the river Ganga and coming to meet Rama. The Bharata coming to meet Rama is just shown here. And look at that. This is seen after the Surpanaka's nose was chopped by Lakshmana. Surpanaka runs to her immediate help. She could not go to Lanka, which is far away. She goes to that close by Trisira Asura. He is an Asura, a cousin of Ravana, who is there by that place. And he says, please help me and do something. This man has chopped my nose. This is Surpanaka complaint to Trisira Asura. Trisira, three faces Asura. So the Trisira Asura is here. And Ravana abducting Sita and taking her away in the Pushpaka Vimanam. Again, Jatayu comes and fights. Ravana kills Jatayu. That's shown here. Then after that, you come to the phase of Valivatam. Vali is being killed. All the monkey clan are terribly sorrowed by that. And everybody is crying. You have Angada by the side of Vali. Vali's wife, Tara. So many other monkeys. One is just hitting his head and crying. One is just taking out, with his nose, he's turning it out. And this monkey you see here, its mouth is wide open and he's screaming and shouting. What a beautiful depiction of this Valivatam. Vali is lying down And all that is shown in such a beautiful miniature. Now coming to Vishnu Purana, you have the Hiranyavada. Look at the difference between that sculpture and this sculpture. Look at the way in which the force with which Hiranyaksha is being torn by Narasimha. This is again a miniature. Look at this. Krishna killing Kamsa. Again, you have the Varaha Avatara with Bhumi Devi. You have the Kali. You have dancers. All like that, you have about 80 and odd beautiful sculptures. Unfortunately, time being, I cannot give you the descriptions of all the 80. Some of them are lost. But whatever is remaining is also, I think we hardly preserve it. Beautiful dances. Everything in miniature in the pillars and the pilasters. All these things. Undoubtedly, Pullamangai is a masterpiece of the early Chola temple or the Chola architecture. It's very sad to note that this wonderful temple is not declared as a protected monument by Archaeological Survey of India. Survey of India has approached the government of Tamil Nadu, HRC department, to take over this temple as a protected monument. And the paperwork has just started. I do not know when it is going to come. It's not only to be taken as a protected monument by ASI, it's high time this protected monument is declared as a World Heritage Site. Such a small temple, you have so much of wonders and master workmanship, which no other temple in this country can boast of. I wish and pray this Pullamangai comes to light someday or other. Many tourists do come and see that the masterpieces that are created by the Cholas of this history years, 200 years ago. Unwanted constructions are added to this temple, covering the beauty of the temple under the concrete structures. There is no proper drainage for the rainwater that gets filled into the pit of the temple, which is posing a great threat to the structure. I wish and pray good things happen fast, and this becomes a protected monument. And today, I wanted to present the topic of Melakkadambur also along with this, but I think I've run out of time, and I got so involved in presenting this Pullamangai, the sculptures, so fascinated, but I keep this Melakkadambur lecture later some time. We will club it along with some other thing and do it. Thank you very much for being with me. And I dedicate this lecture to my Guru, great Nagaswami sir. And with his blessings, I wish and pray that things will go in the right path and our heritage and culture will be preserved for eternity. And any questions I'm prepared to take. Thank you.